All right, everyone. It's amazing how fast the propaganda is moving right now. The legacy media and the Uniparty in general is terrified of Donald Trump, and so they're doing literally anything that they can to try to give points to the Biden administration, and technically now Kamala administration, I suppose. And so now you've got a Russian prisoner swap. It's frontline news everywhere. I'm going to mispronounce this name. I think Gershkovitz and Whelan have been released, among others actually, from Russia as part of a prisoner exchange. The natural question is, why did it take so fucking long? Whelan's been in there for years. Gershkovitz has been in there for years. And, of course, Biden and Harris couldn't help but ham it up. As the second that they're released, they show up and, shake their hands and shit like that. Here's my question. Why were you able to get Brittany Griner, who genuinely did break Russian law, by the way, unlike Whelan, etc.? Why were you able to get the basketball player back to the United States in short order, but these people had to spend an additional year rotting in a Russian gulag? That would be my natural question. This is not actually a victory at all, except maybe, I suppose, for Vladimir Putin. He'll be hamming it up too, I'm sure. Probably already has. I didn't look up an update about that. It's not really a foreign policy victory at all. It's just a routine prison swap. It was funny. There's like, it's the biggest prisoner swap since the Cold War, which we're still in technically now anyway. That's wonderful. You think that Biden was able to broker it himself? Number one. I don't think so. And Kamala, certainly, I don't think she's ever met Vladimir Putin, actually, if I remember correctly. Basically, the unseen hand behind the scenes brokers a deal that is favorable to Russia, and now Biden and Kamala are really forcing it into the legacy media, which is literally partnered with the White House for press purposes, without asking that fundamental question. Why did it take you so goddamn long? Apparently, prisoner swaps are easy. If you release an international arms dealer implicated in multiple wars, which they did in exchange for Griner, and that goes really quick, even though she actually did violate Russian law and did so knowingly, why did it take you so long to get somebody who was falsely accused of espionage? What gives? That's the question that I would ask, but of course the legacy media is not interested in asking that question. So right now it's Biden got our Americans back and stuff like that. I'm glad that they're back. I'm glad that Whelan and Gershkovitz are free. I'm glad that the prisoners are free. That's wonderful. In that sense, it's a success. But you pay a price in response, and it was belated. Whelan should have been the one that was brokered for instead of Griner to begin with, actually. But that didn't happen. They focused on the basketball star instead of people who were literally falsely accused, as opposed to someone who actually did violate Russian law. Self-admittedly, Brittany Griner brought cannabis products into Russia, aware of the fact that you're not allowed to have cannabis products in the nation of Russia. She did break the law. And Putin must be like, he's furrowing his brow right now. It's like, the priorities of this administration make no sense. It's almost like a modern-day madman strategy, only this time they're actually mad, I suppose, or at least demented. There's a lot of propaganda, though. The propaganda angle is they're going to force this into the news cycle as much as they can, claim it's a major success. Oh, look how great Biden and Kamala are at diplomacy. I mean, it took them a while, but, eventually they got our Americans back. Shed a tear, dear Ball Legal. This is patriotism. They care about the American people so much. Well, no, they cared more about the basketball star, the one that actually broke the law of the land when competing in Russia. That's the whole problem. But that won't be mentioned. And Griner actually comes out and makes like a message, says, oh yeah, I'm so thankful for this, and it's all great. Yes, but they were sitting there rotting for years in a goddamn gulag. Mining salt at the salt quarry and then going back to their dinner of beets and cabbage and shit like that. At least they didn't get botulism and die like that other dude, that time. The one that went to North Korea and probably shouldn't have tried to steal a propaganda poster of Kim Jong-un. That's a bad idea, just to be clear. No touchy. Probably don't go to North Korea. By the way, the North Korean former head diplomat saying that Kim Jong-un would parlay with the United States on nuclear weapons talks if Trump is reelected. Slightly important, but you'll see a wall of propaganda about that too. If you go onto the news right now, what does it actually say? Former top diplomat to North Korea says Kim Jong-un prefers Donald Trump. Well, that sounds like he's being supported by dictators now, doesn't it? Everything that you're seeing right now is nothing more than propaganda. We've got push polling, we've got lies by omission, we've got lies by format and structure, we've got outright black lies, actually, including the idea that Donald Trump wants to take women's right to choose away. We've got propaganda promoting the Biden-Harris administration unduly. What the legacy media should be asking, why did it take so fucking long? Why did it take so long to conduct diplomacy with the Russians and not get it done in short order so that Whelan was, I think, in the gulag for 5 fucking years or something like that? It even predates the Biden administration. Now, of course, Trump, that's towards the end of his term, so, I mean, he can't really be blamed for it, but Biden had all of this time to set things up and could have just been, you know, from day one say, look, you get a bunch of Americans in your prisons. We want them back. We got a bunch of Russians in our prisons. Let's just do a clean swap. The negotiations could have taken a month. A single month would have been long enough. Get some Russian envoys over to Camp David or the White House or wherever you want to host them. Take them out to a cafe or something. Get them loaded, by the way, in the process. You know, make sure that you get them loaded. That's always a good idea when you're negotiating with someone. And then say, look, you know, here's a list of prisoners that we have of yours. Here's a list of prisoners that you have of ours. And we want these people back. And you do a high sell. And then they do a counter offer. And then you meet in the middle. It's called The Art of the Deal. Trump wrote the book by that name. That's why he was more successful in foreign diplomacy than Biden could ever possibly be. It's a farce. This is nothing more than propaganda that we're seeing right now. The big news of the day, Biden had a foreign policy success. And by the way, Kamala was there. Did you notice? Kamala, who is normally publicly accent, was hamming it up even more than Biden was. He looked basically like an empty shell. She has effectively taken on the role of the incumbency. And she's doing that for optical purposes. And I have no doubt that the Obamas are partially behind this. They countermanded the Clintons and decided to assert hegemony. And they're much better at strategy than pretty much any other group within the liberal political circus that we see. And it's the Obamas running the show at the moment. Barack Obama is fundamentally president of the United States right now through his puppet, who owes him lots of favors. It's just the way that it is. King Obama. That's about all. Peace out.